Wonderful. Well, once again, good evening, everyone, and greetings from William and Mary. It is a pleasure to see you all again for our fall series information session. Tonight, we have a really special session in store for you as we dive into one of our most popular specializations within the MBA program, our business analytics specialization. I'm going to take a minute to briefly introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Amanda Barth, and I serve as Director of MBA Admissions at the Raymond A. Mason School of Business at William and Mary. I have worked in this capacity for well over 11 years, and I absolutely love every aspect of my role at William and Mary. I'm also a little biased. I'm an alumna of the university. I earned my Master's of Education from the Education Policy, Planning, and Leadership program from the School of Education in 2006. So a proud alumna of the William and Mary tribe. Josh?
Good evening, everyone. Great to see a lot of familiar faces on the call tonight. As Amanda said, I'm Josh Leslie, Associate Director. I've been in this role for a little over 2 years. But I went to William and Mary, graduated in 2005, so definitely believe the green and gold, love all things William and Mary. I said this on most of the calls previously, but I think it's important before we get into business analytics and obviously the MBA program to really know about William and Mary, because I tell people all the time, it's a lot more than our highly ranked MBA program. You're gonna get the William and Mary brand on your resume. And when I say that, I can't say enough about our alumni, relationships you're going to develop, and how tight-knit the community is. That being said, a few people that are new to the call maybe don't know the history, but we're the second oldest university in America to Harvard, one of 8 original public Ivy universities, U.S. presidents, Thomas Jefferson, our most famous, and Monroe, Tyler, George Washington got his surveyor's license. So a lot of prestige, a lot of tradition, a lot of history of William and Mary, and I think it's just important to know that as well. So I'll kick it back over to Amanda.
Very good. And if you'll all do us the favor of remaining on mute for now, that would be very helpful as we work our way through the call. Tonight, we have a very special guest from our William and Mary faculty with us. Dr. Matthew Dean is joining our call tonight to talk to you all about business analytics at William and Mary. Professor Dean is a clinical associate professor in the area of operations and information technology at William and Mary. Dr. Dean earned his PhD in operations and information management from the University of Connecticut School of Business. We'll forgive you for that, Matthew. But he also earned his Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from William and Mary. So he is one of our tribe. At the business school, Professor Dean teaches both business analytics and operations management in our full-time MBA program. Dr. Dean, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're delighted to have you, and we'd like for you to open just telling us a little bit about why a candidate should pursue the business analytics specialization at William and Mary.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Yes, I am an alum. I love it. William and Mary is a special place to me, so it's a great place to be. So business analytics, right? It's been hot for a decade now, at least, maybe a decade and a half, and different people think of different things when they think of business analytics. But the whole point of the specialization within the full-time MBA program is that you're not going to go out there and be a coder, right? More than likely not. What you are going to want to be able to do, though, is manage those people who do the data science and data engineering stuff, the IT back end of it. So you need to have enough know-how to be able to understand what they're telling you, and more importantly, to call them out and say that's BS when they're not telling you the truth, right? When they say something that just doesn't add up, you can be like, no, I know that's not right, right? So that is really the importance of this specialization, right? It's not going to be you out there coding. It's going to be you out there managing people that are doing it and managing processes that involve it. So that's really where it kind of lies within the full-time MBA program.
Very, very good, Matthew. Thank you so much for sharing that. It has become one of the most popular specializations that we offer. It's extremely market driven, and Matthew mentioned that it's been popular for well over a decade, but it's still the area where we see the hot MBA jobs. Matthew, one of the other benefits to the business analytics specialization, of course, is the ability to earn a STEM designated focus within a full-time MBA program. From where you sit as a faculty member, what do you see as some of the benefits for those STEM opportunities in the United States?
Yeah, so that, the big thing I think is being able to, anything that has to do with STEM is gonna be highly career driven, right? You're gonna have great job opportunities across different industries. We see it in healthcare, we see it in supply chain, we see it all across. We see it in retail, we see it in consulting, right? Everything like that. So that is one of the advantages to having it, is that you will become more marketable with that specialization and with the STEM designation within the market.
Absolutely. We are seeing that. We launched our STEM designated Masters of Science of Business Analytics back in 2017. And then we followed suit in the MBA program with the specializations in business analytics and also supply chain in 2018. So what this also means for candidates, especially our global candidates, is that you can earn an opportunity to expand your work permit, your work visa. So for global candidates, instead of having a 12-month OPT, optional practical training, this STEM opportunity allows you a 24-month possible extension. Now, Matthew and I have worked very closely with the university to make sure that we're offering everything we need to allow those designations. But what the caveat is for that is that you'll also have to target STEM hiring companies, but many new companies are coming into the fold now that they see that we offer those STEM designated opportunities in our portfolio. So it could be a company like IBM, a company like Deloitte in the consulting sector. It could be a Microsoft and a Google. It could even be a company like Capital One in the fintech sector. So we're really seeing great expansion and career opportunities for our global students, but also for our domestic students who are going after those jobs in the STEM sector. So really a great way to expand career opportunities at William & Mary. Matthew, before we dive into the sort of second year of the full-time MBA, could you talk a little bit about perhaps the value of a candidate considering either a dual degree with MSBA or a pure specialization, maybe what some of the advantages of the dual are versus remaining in a full-time program and going towards that full specialization?
Yeah, so we do offer the dual degree with the MSBA program, which is really nice. You come out with 2 degrees. The dual degree is geared a little more towards what the MSBA program is. You are doing a lot of hands-on analytics. So you have machine learning courses 1 and 2. You have a database course, which you can also do, and it's a little different. You have a visualization, heuristics, optimization. So there's a lot of technical stuff in the MSBA program, right? So you can, if that's what you want to do, then that's a great way, because now not only do you have the Master's in Science and Business Analytics, but you also have the MBA, which says, hey, I have some business acumen as well. So I've married these 2 things together. Now I'm very marketable out in the job market. That's also more for people if they want to kind of be more on the technical side, but also maybe managing more technically related teams. So you might start out doing some of the coding and stuff yourself and then move into the management of those if you do the dual degree. Whereas if the specialization, it's a little more of a generalist. So you have a little more breadth on where you can go and what knowledge you gain within the MBA program, right? So I've taught in both programs. The MSBA students, they are very heads down a lot, coding, right? The MBAs, they are very much more big picture kind of people, and they're interested in that kind of stuff, right? So you can, if you want to try out both, you have the opportunity with a dual degree.
Absolutely, Matthew. And that's exactly the way that we counsel our prospective students. If you're really passionate about the coding, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all of those exciting tools, then it is important to consider weighing the dual degree. But if you do see yourself in more of a managerial capacity where you want to understand big data analytics better, but not necessarily take such a deep dive, then that's where the MBA with a specialization in analytics really comes in hand. And Matthew and Josh and I will tell you all what's so wonderful about the curriculum structure at the William and Mary School of Business is we also give you time to figure that out. So the first year of the full-time MBA is what we classify as our rigorous core curriculum. You'll have exposure to areas like business analytics right out of the gate, but also core courses in finance, accounting, marketing, organizational behavior. But that first year really gives you time to get to know faculty like Professor Dean, who teach in the core, who run the boot camp. They will get to know you, and they will really start to counsel you in that first year about your best path forward. Two other partners that you'll have along your journey would be the Graduate Career Management Center team, and also our executive partners, and maybe even a little bit your second year MBA colleagues. They will all lend advice about their experience in the program, and that will help you to shape your decision about which specialization is right for you and which pathway is best. I'm sure, Matthew, you'll agree that we have such a collaborative community when it comes to supporting our students and their decision making. I bet you meet with our candidates all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very supportive, very collaborative.
Very good. So I alluded a little bit about the first year core. So when you wrap up your first year core, you're going to go out and do a summer internship with a company. And that internship will last from May until August. And then when you come back to us at William and Mary, this is the juncture where you really dive in to your specialization head first. So Professor Dean, if you could talk a little bit about what that second year experience entails from the CAMs to the electives.
Sure, yeah. So actually in the first year in session D, you do have some choices, some electives. So if you're going to take the Business Analytics CAM, which is a career acceleration module, then you do have to take an elective from me in that session D in your first year called Tools for Business Analytics, where it kind of tees you up into, okay, what do we mean by business analytics? What tools are we going to use in order to do it, right? So that's a prereq into my CAM, the Business Analytics and Supply Chain CAM. So you have to take this CAM if you want to specialize in business analytics or supply chain. We have two different specializations. And the career acceleration module it's the only class you take. It's 6 credits. It's very intense. It's 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. And you'll be sick of me afterwards, but that's okay. I'm sick of you afterwards, but so it's very intense. In normal times, the CAM has field trips out to look at more supply chain kind of stuff, like go to the port to see the stuff coming in from the shipping containers, different distribution centers. This past year, because of the pandemic, we were not allowed to travel. So instead, I brought in 5 different panels of guest speakers from across the country. I had the CFO of Tyson Foods come talk to my class. I had some really good interactions with a lot of high up people that were William and Mary alums primarily. It was good. So that was a nice way to bring in. So one of the silver linings there is that I could get people in Chicago, right, to come talk to me. It's rather than having them fly here and talk in person, right? I just need to turn my light on.
I go through that all the time.
And I haven't moved enough, I guess. So the CAM, it looks at business analytics. So there is I do some coding in it to get your feet wet. There's some supply chain. This time it was not as much, simply because we couldn't travel. And then after the CAM, then you, in the second half of the fall for your second year, you can start taking electives. We have stuff like project management, Lean Six Sigma toolkit stuff, where you can one of the courses you can actually get a green belt in Six Sigma, which is useful. And then in the spring semester, we have database management, which is you have to take if you're doing the specialization. It's very important. There's a supply chain course in the first session in the fall, second half of the fall. We have advanced modeling techniques, which is actually an Excel VBA based. So even if you decide to go finance as a specialization, that's a great course to take, right? Because you can learn a lot of VBA, Visual Basics for applications in that. So we have, so those are the big ones that we have. We have like Lean Toolkit also, in addition to Six Sigma stuff. So those are kind of the big electives that we have.
Absolutely. And the structure of our program is so nice. Our faculty put a lot of thought into it. As candidates, you simply don't know what you don't know. So our faculty have really built a structure that will meet the demands of industry. I always feel like our candidates are very well prepared when they go in for their internship interviews and their job interviews, because at the end of the day, no matter what your specialization, we are a very quantitative program, and a program that really teaches you the business fundamentals that you need to have a strong toolkit. So I encourage candidates to enjoy the data analysis classes that you have in the core, and don't be afraid or intimidated. Even if you're in marketing, classes in marketing analytics are really, really important for your career progression. And that's where all of the decision making is happening these days. This does tee us up, Matthew, a little bit into the next talking point, which would be career outcomes. And I am sure we can all agree that we're consistently blown away by the opportunities that come for our William and Mary MBAs. No matter where they're looking in the States or around the globe, we've partnered with great companies. And as a matter of fact, last Friday was our Tech Day at William and Mary. Our career team was able to host a very successful virtual version of Tech Day. So Matthew, were you a part of the Tech Day conversation, or where have you seen some of the great career opportunities for business analytics focused students?
Yeah, so there's definitely great opportunities in the consulting realm. The consulting firms are really grabbing the guys up. But even in fintech, like you said, there are several students in the CAM this year that already have jobs, right? They got jobs when they were in my CAM with some of the banking firms. So those are some of the places I see it. There's always also smaller kind of technical firms that more regional that are also always interested in our students as well.
Absolutely. We're definitely seeing those trends. And if you're noticing our background, we shared with Professor Dean at the beginning of the call, Josh and I are actually in Northern Virginia this evening. We're up at Tyson's Corner. So we're literally sitting in the hub. IBM is here, PwC is here, EY is here, Amazon's HQ2 is here. So when we talk about accessibility to companies from William and Mary, we drove 2 hours to get here tonight. So we're literally in the backyard of some of the biggest hiring companies in North America in this space. And it does make a difference to have that William & Mary brand on your resume and to have that accessibility. The reason we're here is because we're picking up 2 of our incoming global students from Ghana and Nigeria. They finally got their student visas during the time of COVID to come to campus. So we'll be driving them down tomorrow, talk about one-stop shop service. But the point of this is that one of the candidates that we're picking up has already had an interview with Salesforce. And Christiana has been focused on business analytics thus far in just the first year of the MBA. And she was saying, I have to arrange my flight around my interview with Salesforce. Her second year colleague, Faradmi, did a summer internship remotely at Google and then has already been offered a full-time job at Google. So just reinforcing that the stretch and the scope of your opportunity after learning from faculty like Professor Dean and getting that William & Mary brand will take you far. So really, they say business analytics is one of the top 25 best paying MBA areas. And that's certainly true in terms of jobs. So great traction in the business analytics world. I wanted Matthew to have you talk a little bit more to this group because we have so many candidates on the call that have been with us, because you and Professor McCoy and Professor Hewitt and Professor Petrovitz also partner to host our PreMBA quantitative boot camp. Could you talk a little bit about the preparation that you would recommend any candidate to have pre-MBA before they enroll?
Sure. Yeah. So for the accounting stuff for Professor Petrovitz, really it's just doing her stuff that she tells you, right? So she puts together something very good that you really don't have to do much beforehand before getting here. For the Excel stuff that myself and Professor McCoy do, it would be a good idea to brush up on using Microsoft Excel. You can do that several different ways. Once you get William & Mary credentials, you can go to LinkedIn Learning, and we have all that stuff available to students once you have your credentials. And there's lots of great courses there. There are other online courses that are great too, and some useful websites as well. And then for the math boot camp, it's brushing up. She doesn't, Professor Hewitt doesn't do much more than high school math, but you may not have done high school math in a long time, right? I mean, so it's algebra. She does do a little bit of calculus, so maybe you had calculus in high school or not, but there is some of that stuff, right? And so that usually takes place. That boot camp week usually takes place the week before classes start, or sometimes it's 2 weeks before, and there's an orientation week. That schedule kind of changes every now and then. So.
Absolutely. And that boot camp week started about 4 years ago, and it has been such a wonderful pre-MBA opportunity for our students. And, we welcome students with non-traditional academic backgrounds. So you don't have to have been a business undergrad major or a math major like Professor Dean to do very well in an MBA program. And Matthew, I'm sure you see that candidates who say I was an English major, help. But what type of services or extra opportunities do you provide students in the program if they start to feel like the math is becoming a lot?
Yeah, I mean, so in the boot camps, really it is to kind of get everybody level set at the same kind of level, right? I mean, I have students come in and say, "Oh, I know Excel," and then in day 2 of the Excel boot camp, they're like, "I didn't know Excel." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I know, but right." So it's just getting to that same level set so that we know kind of where you are, right? And if there's issues, there's always if you need additional resources, we're always available to give you additional resources in terms of where you can find good stuff and things like that, you know.
Absolutely. So we usually tell the candidates, don't worry too much in the months leading up. That boot camp is really the majority of the prep that you need. And then Professor Dean, Professor Petrovitz, Professor Hewitt, Professor McCoy also design a few pre-MBA deliverables that you can do at your own pace before you see them in boot camp. But again, no need to worry. Our team is great. Our faculty, again, are ranked #1 for learning outcomes. So you really do have the best of the best. And of course, we have graduate assistants and teaching assistants in the program that offer tutoring sessions. And one of the reasons that you're all so excited about William and Mary is that team dynamic in year 1. We'll put you on a learning team of roughly 4 to 5 students. And Josh and I are very good at putting a few quant jocks on the team with a couple of the folks who maybe aren't as quant savvy, but you'll all work together, a really nice spirit of collaboration in the program. So Matthew, what's kept you at William & Mary so long other than being an alumnus? What's the best part of doing what you do on the faculty?
Oh, wow. I enjoy the back and forth with the students in the classroom, right? I mean, so you bring in really good groups of students in the MBA program, and the discussions that we have sometimes are very, very interesting. And sometimes I forget about people thinking in different ways than what I had been thinking of a particular subject. So it's great to have that discussion and that back and forth.
Absolutely. And we see that our students always remark, Amanda, Josh, you told us that the faculty were accessible and committed to our learning, but I think they're really taken aback about how you all get to know them. You get to know their name, you know their backstory, you know their career goals, and that's super impressive. I know that's why I selected William & Mary for graduate school over other options, and it's something that Josh and I are very, very proud to see continue. It's really that special sauce that you get at the William & Mary School of Business. Matthew, one more question about the experience. We are so optimistic that life will begin to look a little different in the spring. William & Mary has done a phenomenal job of managing our opening during COVID, keeping all of our students safe. What's in your outlook? What is your gut telling you for this next class who will be joining us in August of 2021? How do you think things will look? What's been going well?
Wow. So now I need to pull up my crystal ball.
Your crystal ball, exactly.
and I'll preface this with, I teach forecasting sometimes, and all forecasts are wrong. So it doesn't matter what I say, right? I think we'll be in a better situation than we are this past fall. Will we be back to normal? I don't think that we can ever define what normal is. So I don't know. I mean, so in this past fall, I taught face-to-face with the second-year MBA students in the CAM, and we're all in the classroom, as many as we can fit in, and they enjoyed it. I prefer to be in the classroom with the students because, again, I think there's a better building of community there. In the spring, I'm teaching the elective for the CAM, the prereq for the CAM, face-to-face, right, with the first-year students. So, we are doing our best to try to provide as much in-person learning as we can to help build that community.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking to the right audience. All of these candidates are, focused on the residential MBA opportunity. So Professor Dean, thank you so much for what you're doing in the classroom. It certainly has made a difference for our second year students and the first year students. We're one of the schools that I think will really be a model for how to manage COVID. We've been so impressed, and, a lot of credit also goes to the students teams themselves for maintaining all the proper protocol, for being responsible, for being safe, and for being resilient. But hopefully this is a good indicator of what you're all getting into at William and Mary, the fact that we've been able to do so well in this very difficult time. But we're optimistic. We're hopeful that things will start to take a turn, and that those CAM visits and travel opportunities will resume, and that you'll be flying out for that Google internship to California and not doing it remotely. But nonetheless, we even got an update from Brett Alpert, who is the Associate Dean for Career Management. And he reported in our administrative staff meeting this week that they were expecting a slight decline in internship and jobs, but in fact, they're on pace with where they were last year and still doing quite well with outcomes. So of course, we know things might look a little different in the end, but it just really shows the value of the degree. And this is a good time for you all as candidates to invest in yourself, to invest in your education, and to really make the most of this time. And in 2022, when your employer says, what were you doing when COVID hit? You can say, I took the time and invested in my MBA. So there are certainly some silver linings to what you're all doing right now. But Josh and I, Professor Dean, we want to recognize this brave move. It really is a good thing that you're all doing. We're going to transition over, and Josh is going to lead us through some Q&A. And so now, Matthew, the pressure's on the candidates to show off for you. Don't be shy, and Josh will lead us through some Q&A here.
So what we've done before, if you guys just want to speak up and unmute, feel free, or you can put it in the chat bar, and I will talk about your questions there. Go here, waiting for questions. Again, anyone, feel free. Professor Dean, I have one to kick it off.
Okay.
Where an easy one, but I'm just interested. Where does the passion for business analytics come from? What's kind of, Amanda did a great introduction of you, but what's a little bit more your background? Where does that passion come from? Maybe a story or just, I don't know.
Yeah, so I like to tell people what to do. So optimization and predictive, prescriptive analytics, prescribing really appeals to me. But actually, as an undergrad at William & Mary, I took an operations research class from Rex Kincaid and liked it, filed it away, went out and worked in the real world for a while, got into programming, computer programming quite a bit, and then decided, then I took a job with a primarily government contractor up in Northern Virginia that I had secret clearance for because I did a lot of defense work. But the project I worked on was called the Dance of the 30-Ton Trucks. We scheduled concrete trucks for a large concrete company in Northern Virginia to tell them which plant to go to, which job to go to. So they got me really, really interested in it. And so then I decided to go back and get my PhD at that point. And so just marrying up the mathematical modeling and the software engineering is really what got me interested into it.
Awesome. Thank you. Looks like we got our first question here from Chandler. Do the business analytics courses focus more on the procurement of the data or the understanding and utilization of the data?
Primarily the understanding and utilization of it. I have been thinking about modifying the course for the tools for business analytics to actually do a little bit of web scraping to get some data off the web. So it morphs as I get feedback from students and as I want to change things up. So.
Awesome. Let's see. Young Soo has another question. And hey there, Young Soo. I know you've been on a bunch of calls already, so thanks for joining again. But he's asking about, let's see, the MSBA and the full-time MBAs. Is it enough to not do the MSBA to work in tech companies?
Do you get enough coding?
Do you get enough coding, sorry.
So I guess it depends on the type of job you're looking for in a tech company. if you're looking for like a business, something that usually carries a title of business analyst, absolutely, you get enough in the full-time MBA. If you talk to the students that just took my CAM this semester, they might say I did too much coding. So some, and again, some of that course will morph as I do it more and more. So.
Very good. And Professor Dean, if some of the students, I know I've been asked by candidates, if they want to pick up a little extra, some of the R, Python, SQL, Tableau, all the fancy bells and whistles in the trade, are they able to do that a bit through the full-time program, or what extras can you guys provide?
Yeah. Yes. Traditionally, I taught 5211 the past 2 years. I'm not teaching it this year. About a third of that course was Tableau, and that's a core course, so everybody has to take it. I think the instructor that's doing it this year is following suit with that. Then in the tools for business analytics that I teach in the spring, last year I did half R, half Python. This year I'm probably going to do more Python and more process-oriented tools instead of just R. Simply because I think Python is more valuable to MBA students than R is. So yeah, you get exposed to Tableau, you get exposed to Python, and if you take like the modeling course, the advanced modeling techniques, you get Excel and VBA as well.
Absolutely. I'm using Tableau now on a weekly basis, thanks to Brian Nigg, and I absolutely love it. So really great software to understand and to be able to utilize. Of course, Professor Dean takes it to a whole nother level. Professor Dean, we do have a question from our friend Pradeep, who's calling in from Nepal. Hey, Pradeep, great to see you again. He has a really good question. How easy is it for someone who doesn't have that programming and coding background to pursue a business analytics specialization if they've had a non-tech background? Do you see some people who really catch on and get in there within that first year?
I do, actually. I was surprised by several of the students in the CAM this year that I did not anticipate them being as strong as they were. So they were able to catch on to it pretty quick.
It's a sign of good teaching, yeah?
I wish I could take credit for that, right? I just point you in the direction, right?
Do you think, Professor Dean, I'm just interested, was there something in their background that helped them with that, or they're just smart and got it?
So, like most things, it comes down to effort and attitude. Those are the only two things you can control in life, effort and attitude, right? So the more effort you put into something and the better attitude you have about it, the better you're going to be at it, right? So I think that may have been one of the ways that they did well. Yeah.
You sound like my football coaches at William Mary. So that's good. I like it. Nice.
Yeah, Dean White will be happy to hear you say that, Matthew. Our dean is all about attitude, and so that's great that you're sharing that sentiment. Pradeep had a second part to his question, and I'll try to help with this. Pradeep, typically you'll only have time for the one specialization through the full-time MBA program. But again, everyone will get warmed up with data analysis as a core component of the first year class. And even if you get into finance or marketing, you can continue to dive into analytics. Marketing analytics is a very important part of the second year experience. And then depending on your specialization, you could still take the business analytics CAM, and Professor Dean and Professor McCoy would really counsel you through that. Another example is that if you're supply chain, you're eligible to take that business analytics CAM. If you're entrepreneurial focused, you still have to pick from finance, business analytics, and marketing for your CAM. So I just really want to reiterate that even though you don't necessarily have time for two specializations, and we don't call it sort of a major and a minor, you'll still get a big dose of business analytics if you want it in our program. Matthew, do you think that's a fair shake?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, so you can actually I think this is still true. You can get a finance concentration without taking their CAM.
Very good. Very good.
I think so. You could take the business analytics CAM and then still specialize in finance.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you mentioned finance. It's not official yet, but sort of hot off the press, we are in that sort of middle phase of getting finance approved as a STEM designated course. So it's something we started working on last season. When COVID hit, we took the foot off the accelerator. It is just a matter of us doing a little bit more work on our side. So we can't promise it to our second year MBAs, but we're pretty daggone confident that the first year MBAs and then of course the incoming cohort are going to have that opportunity as well. We are really good at corporate finance at William & Mary. That's where the majority of our students go in the financial sector, but I'd love to see more opportunities in fintech because that is booming as well, and many different areas. So keep posted for that. Hopefully we'll have some good news in the new year. Lots of good news coming if you're dialing in from overseas. So we're excited for new opportunities in the new year. So very good.
And we had another question from Matthew Altinger. If you want to go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Dean, for being here. When you were talking about effort and attitude, that reminded me also of football. The only thing I would add to that is toughness. That's our motto here. We call it EAT, effort, attitude, toughness. That's what I actually named I run an entrepreneurship club, and I also named it EAT. My coach thinks I just stole it from him. But I'd love to know, we learned a little bit about your background, but amongst the other professors, how would you say their background plays into the teaching style of the business analytics specialization?
Yeah. So I'm trying to, let me think of who else is teaching in the full-time. So one of the great things is we have a lot of professors that have a lot of practical experience as well as research academic experience, right? So using some of the stuff that they do out in the consulting world, they bring that back into the classroom as here are real data sets, here are real examples of sticking points that clients had, that we were able to help them with. So I think there's a good balance within the entire Mason School of faculty that either have a lot of practical experience and the PhD, or that they have a PhD and they do consulting on the side. Right. So I think there's a great balance where they bring all that stuff back into the classroom for the benefit of the students.
Absolutely. We had Professor David Long on the call last week who was talking about career opportunities in the consulting sector, Matthew, and he was saying the same thing. And, I think about some of our quant faculty members, Scott McCoy has an incredible global background. Chris Petrovitz is an absolute rock star if any of you are thinking accounting as a potential career outcome. But what I think I've respected and really admired the most is the way our faculty work together. The core faculty and the faculty meet from time to time to make sure what you're getting in Professor Dean's class is carried on into other coursework. You see a lot of that in year one, but even a little bit of it in year two. Our faculty are always talking. They get along well, they work together. It's pretty cool to see all those backgrounds come together. Very good. Well, Professor Dean, any parting words of wisdom? What would you tell a budding MBA candidate to get them all prepared for August 2022?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think make sure that you do the right thing for you, right? So invest in yourself and do that, right? So it's always a good thing to invest in yourself, and an MBA from William & Mary would definitely be an investment.
Absolutely. And Josh, what do you think? Parting words of wisdom for the group tonight?
Yeah, not to do too much of the football talk there, but a little bit of the thing. But the perseverance, I think, that's one thing, and the grittiness that a lot of us on the call learned some different things. For me, a lot was in athletics, but especially during COVID and these different times, I think you don't want to use it as an excuse, right? Find a way to get better, to be competitive, whether it's, specifically for me, I never scheduled Zoom calls before. So I had to set up all of these sessions and it just put something new on my resume.
I wasn't going to do it.
But seriously, there's opportunities to grow no matter what situation you get thrown in life. And I think that's what's most important. So right now, figure that out and really go after it and think this is a time where I can really make a difference if I put some effort in and be positive, because a lot of other people, quite frankly, are not. And there's a lot of excuses out there right now where it's a great time to flip that and to make yourself stand out.
Yeah, and to give you some context, there are a lot of people jumping off the sideline. We've done interviews with many of you and they've been awesome, but we have received our highest number of applications in the last decade. So we're also watching candidates seize these opportunities. And tonight, Josh and I really want to encourage you, keep working with us. I can tell you everybody that we've worked with on this call is A+. Young Sue, I know we have our interview coming up. I cannot wait to have more time with you, but go for it. We're encouraging you and we're glad to see you tonight. You're doing everything right, but don't hold back. Go for it, get started, make this investment. And again, you'll have a really rewarding outcome when you wrap up your program in May of 2023. I can't believe we're working on the MBA class of 2023 now. So again, Josh and I would like to thank you, Professor Dean. You are always delightful. We love spending time with you. We love your sense of humor. We love the way you are with our students. So thank you for logging on for yet another virtual session, for taking time, and we know away from your family tonight to spend with our candidates and your future students. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was great seeing everybody.
Very good. And we wish you all well. Please stay safe. We know you're calling in from all over the globe and all over the United States. Stay safe, be well, and we look forward to seeing you soon at William & Mary. Thank you all for your time.